So TechBBQ has been working with life science for the past 3 years. It actually came with a partnership from Novo Nordisk. They have been funding us for the past 3 years to kind of support the life science ecosystem, startups, investors, corporates, and that sort of the like, and really try to connect the ties between biotech, medtech, and health tech. It is really a funny industry because it's very silo based, and some of the verticals within that ecosystem don't necessarily work close together because it's very diverse as well. So our goal has kind of been to bridge the connections across the ecosystem, not only in Denmark but also in the Nordics, and we do that in our yearly event. It's basically a Nordic pitch event for companies or startups that work with digital health technologies or health tech / medtech products or services. We did this with our partner Venture Cup and Innovation World Cup series. We had 8 participating startups, and all of them from Nordic countries basically, so we had full representation. And my role as the project manager that leads this is to make sure that everything works. And this year's winner was Geras Solutions. The jury kind of single-handedly agreed that they were the best case and the best pitchers and stuff like that. So we've actually met up with Richard from Geras Solutions to do a short interview with him about how has it been winning, and what kind of advice does you have and stuff like that. What are they doing right now?
Coming to TechBBQ was, first of all, kind of coming out of the pandemic, actually meeting people for the first time in a long time was a fantastic experience. That alone was worthwhile coming. Then winning the pitch competition on top was, of course, fantastic, and really nice energy boost for me personally and the team to get that recognition and appreciation for what we're trying to achieve here. So that was fantastic, and what came out of that as well was also, good interest from investors that we're also now moving ahead with. So overall, a fantastic experience, many positive things that came out of it. So Geras Solutions was founded in 2016, and the initial idea actually came from a set of players that are involved in the field of dementia care. So Swedish Care International, the company that is tied to Sylvia Hemmet, so that's the Swedish Queen's Foundation that is working with dementia care. My background is actually not in the clinical area, which would have been nice because I meet a lot of clinicians. But by training, I'm an engineer, so I studied mechanical engineering at Chalmers in Gothenburg. Also some economics as well. I started my career in management consulting, so worked by then with several of the healthcare regions and lots in healthcare with process development and organizational development, etc., which has been really valuable in terms of experiences to what we actually do now. I also spent a few years down in Switzerland working also in consulting with digitalization in general, but mainly in the pharma industry. Where I also worked a few years for Novartis in Basel in Switzerland, working with digitalization globally for them. And joining Geras was a fantastic way to actually continue with these areas that I enjoy a lot, but to do that with as an entrepreneur instead, and have more impact yourself and actually make a difference yourself, which I find very motivating. So what we're trying to solve and what we're working with is mainly 3 different large challenges that are related to the field of dementia care and diagnostics. And the first one is being access for patients. So we know that 75% globally of the ones that are affected by cognitive disease actually never get diagnosed at all. Also leading to lots of late diagnosis as well, so people have gone quite far in their disease before they get care. And the challenge here in the healthcare system is really availability of the right competencies to do this, because it's quite complicated disease area, but then also resource availability, because it takes a lot of time to perform high quality diagnosis, and those things are actually what we are having a solution for, and how we can enable better patient outcomes at the end. What we've done is that we've looked at what's going on at a specialist clinic. So a specialist clinic, what do they actually do to provide a high quality diagnosis? And we've taken those things out of that procedure that are suitable to digitalize, put it in a separate app interface for patients and relatives, so that they can actually perform those activities anywhere. So if it's facilitated in primary care, that is the first interface with patients, or actually from home. By doing that digitally, we can actually have intelligence in the back of that to present the result to clinicians in a way that makes it easier for them to give the right diagnosis and get to the right decision earlier in the procedure. The field of cognitive disease, such as Alzheimer's, is actually one of the largest disease areas that we have. And globally, it's 50 million people that are actually affected by dementia, but also their families and the extension of that. At the same time, we're actually missing to provide the right diagnosis in many cases. So if we look again globally, 75% of the people affected never get diagnosed at all actually. So missing that very important treatment window where you can do a big difference for the patient. And what we see also is the fact that the diagnoses that are actually provided are in many cases wrong. So in Sweden, there are studies showing that 1 out of 3 Alzheimer's diagnoses are actually incorrect. So there is massive challenges here in actually being able to identify the right patient, but also at the right time. And then there's massive number of individuals that never get in contact in time with healthcare at all. So the other side of that is actually the health economics and what that means beyond the individual suffering. But as a society as a whole, the cost for cognitive disease is actually twice what we have for cancer and 3 times what we have for cardiovascular disease. So I don't think there is any more expensive disease actually that we have, and we as a society will need to find ways of making sure that we can identify the people in time and provide the right preventive measures to make sure that we can help out here for better results for us as a society, but also for the individuals affected. The main procedure that we do now is, and that's also what we're working with in clinics today, mainly in Sweden, is at primary care level and specialist care. So already in the existing physical care. So when you are going through an assessment for a suspected cognitive disease such as Alzheimer's, you actually perform those steps in a tablet instead of through interviews and pen and paper tests, etc. What we've actually done now as well since the beginning of this year is that we enabled that same procedure to be available at home for anyone. So we are now also a registered healthcare provider ourselves and can take patients and help patients from their home, which is important because a big problem here when it comes to patient access is the stigma around this. So to make it easier for people and lower the barrier for actually entering and starting the diagnostic procedure. First of all, fantastic to have kind of been able to come through all that regulatory part with patient data management and CE marking and the clinical studies, etc. What we do, I mean, the first thing is that we see that we can actually save resources and give better decision support for the clinicians and save time for them as well. What we didn't expect actually in the beginning that would be so important, and that feedback that we've received is actually that the patients enjoy doing this, and that's something that was a little bit new to us, and we didn't think that would be of such high importance actually. But that has turned out to be a really winning factor for making sure that this is actually happening in healthcare with real patients today. Beginning of this year, we had our clinical study that we done together with Karolinska University in Stockholm. We had that published in Journal of Prevention of Alzheimer's Disease, and that was the most important milestone for us to actually allow us to enter into clinical practice. And what we saw there was with the tests that we have, that we actually by far can beat the precision that we see in regular pen and paper interview-based testing in primary care, but also that it's better or similar to the specialist tests that are done at specialist clinics. And what we did on top of that was actually to add other data points that are not collected in regular procedures, such as time, how much time it takes. And we looked at that and saw that actually with 95% coefficients or accuracy, we could determine just based on the time what diagnosis the patient would have at the end. So that, in combination with all the different parts, have enabled us to actually provide really good decision support. So when it comes to adoption and the response from healthcare providers, there is definitely a challenge in as mentioned earlier, the speed here, and the healthcare sector is quite conservative. Our biggest challenge is, of course, to be convincing and ensuring them that we can provide a solution that is meeting the requirements for kind of deserving our space in healthcare. One of the largest kind of skepticism that we're fighting with a little bit is the digital maturity in the healthcare system in itself. In the beginning, we thought that it would have to be more to do with, working with elderly people and their maturity when it comes to using digital solutions. That has not been the case as much as we thought of initially, and I think the pandemic has also driven that type of development and maturity amongst elderly. However, the maturity of using digital tools in healthcare is quite low compared to other industries. And that's a challenge to us. How do we make it accessible, and how do we help actually clinicians that see the value in what we do, but how do they implement a digital tool? It's not like implementing a new treatment or a new medical device, because that they've done before, but a digital medical device that brings new challenges when it comes to patient data management and things, topics that they're not used to actually address in their daily clinical work. And that's where we need to be a partner for them and help them to actually guide them through the procedures of implementing a new digital tool, which also is actually new digital ways of working. And that's one of the largest challenges and a really large focus of what we're doing today. We're not a hockey stick food delivery app that can scale instantly, of course. So it's a different type of investor that we need to engage. So there needs to be some, I think, idealism as well, and also a tech for good aspect for the ones that we engage with now. I think that's important, and I think there's plenty of especially business angels that see that they want to be part of creating more than just a financial positive outcome, but also something that will have larger impact on society as a whole. And I think that's where we can contribute and create something interesting. The ambition in 10 years, which is far out for sure, but where we want to be is that we want to enable healthcare with this new standard of digitalizing, so a new gold standard for how we actually target these patients and help these patients. And the result of that will be that we are actually able to find people earlier, but also have a more precise diagnosis, and then the result of that is that we can provide better care for those individuals, which will then lead to higher quality and also extended life expectancy, etc. So there are several positive benefits for the individual, but also for society as a whole. We've come through a set of massive hurdles in establishing a product that is validated and compliant, etc. And the phase that we are now is really starting to scale and initiate that commercialization. And that's also where we will focus now, and where we will want to attract more talent to help drive that commercialization. So anyone interested in making this more available for more people and scaling that within healthcare is more than welcome to get in touch.